Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. It's Shirley with Spirit of Matter. And this is a Saturday, Saturn Day, and the Soul Hour. And we have a lot of fortune on a 22 degrees Sagittarius. So I'm really smiling by now when I see the 22 degree because I've done such deep soul work with this degree in my own chart, and it's degree of murder, yes. Those who watch Water Expands Upon Cooling, you know. But it's actually not what my talk is about. Um, I do want to talk about a lot of fortune. And before that, I will say I'm no expert on the lot of fortune, okay? Lot of fortune is a part of astrology of the lots. There is to do with zodiac releasing, and it's a Hellenistic technique. You can see it with Chris Brennan. You can see it with Kyra Ryberg. I think she's done a great work on the lots. And I'm in no way expert. But I did notice something coming up a couple of times. And I'd like to talk about the very basis of Lot of Fortune and give you something that even if you don't have currently your exact ascendant or zodiac releasing techniques or deep elaborated techniques, you can still pay attention to something that may every once in a while be some sort of something that just happens in your life. And one of the things when I noticed, I'm a daughter of people of the written word and people of the film and camera. And when I saw one of my parents having a lot of fortune and next to their Mercury, I was so humbled because I really saw with all the things that they, and it's in the 11th house, so I really saw all the things that they went through regarding to having a lot of fortune associated with language, the written word, and public place or the levels of publicity and so on. And then I saw Chart of Netherlands. And Chart of Netherlands, the third Chart of Netherlands, I did a video. And the lot of fortune was also 22 degree Virgo. And immediately everything gathered, okay? It is exactly the industry of true crime that we have in Netherlands, but also political assassinations, especially for, you know, even authors. When I think about people that are at risk because of what they said, like Geert Wilders, and because of basically their or their media work, okay, by the Other Freeze, that also died from political assassination. And I just could not help but notice that this lot of fortunes are almost calling to be heard, to be seen. A lot of fortune, unlike the type of astrology that is like solar astrology or evolutionary astrology, lot of fortune is derived from technique in a type of astrology where people will be more stoic, where people would come to the astrologer to say, what are the good, what's the good, the bad, the evil that I have in life, so that the astrologer can prepare them, and if there can be remediation through talismanic magic, okay, through astrological magic, then they can assist to remediate. And so unlike a lot of spirit, which is basically how we respond to things in life, I had a lot of spirit in 20, have a lot of spirit in 22 degree Taurus in the third house. And when Uranus was crossing that point, I did Water Expands Upon Cooling. It is the astrology of cold cases. Okay, and that was my remediation of what I could do about the fact that I found myself politically targeted for assassination. Even when I reached out to help or whichever, and that was my voice basically within this, and I made this contribution to the world of astrology of this 22nd degree. But it's also my lot of fortune that that was something that was, the more it is perfected for you, the more you have window of opportunity to do something. And a lot of spirit is very interesting. Therefore, you can go to astroseek.com, look for the lots, and you see a lot of spirit, how to calculate this. And so a lot of the information I give now about lot of fortune, if you understand lot of spirit is what you can do, is where your leverage of choice resides, then you can better understand lot of spirit. And so for lot of fortune, it just means something is going to happen. Okay, I have a lot of fortune associated with the events of the 9/11. It was in high perfection, and I saw that until I checked for the lots, I had no idea how meaningful was 9/11 in my life. Because just like everybody, I was watching the screen. At first, I thought it's kind of idioten op de reis, okay, kind of like that the plane crashed accidentally. And then for the second one, I understood it was something big, and I was grieving with the entire nation. And I remember that I went to work, and we had a Arab worker, and I was happy, and he was happy because he worked in the kitchen. That he was happy and waving his very giant knife with all the Arab stereotypes that you think of. And I was so shocked that I said, "Are you stupid?" Which, of course, is the worst thing you can say to Arab. And it threatened my life, okay? So 3 days I didn't sleep at all. I had to go back to work. So that was my 9/11. I didn't know people that were there. But that event would evolve around my life, and in funny ways, okay? Whenever I had this perfected, then the event would come up to be re-examined. And so my lot of fortune has nothing to do with 22. It's actually 26 degrees Capricorn, and is ruled by Saturn. And Saturn, of course, rules tall structures, that something happens to them. Or interest, big interest, crisis, economic crisis, okay, something to do with debt. I have a Saturn on in Scorpio, and you know, if you watched my meme when I said, of course, sometimes she'd go down when it's 9/11 on a sex scraper, you know, this is very much delineated by some sort of very like perfection of this lot of fortune. Lot of fortune doesn't mean something good or bad. It just means that there is a major event to do with where it's at. So let's begin with going over what the possibilities here. First of all, you have to check which sign is your lot of fortune at. Okay, for me, Capricorn. So of course 9/11 is very, very relevant to Capricorn, right? And what can be with these things is both rise up the ladder, okay, to go to rise up the ladder, but also for structures to fall. Saturn also rules our teeth, our hair, our ancestry, our fathers. And then you have to check, okay, for which house. Okay, for me it's 11th house. So that would have to do with my goals and dreams, my large audience, okay, colleagues, but it's also have to do with profits that you make out of like funding, crowdfunding, or bonds, okay, as well. And so while Saturn can restrict, it can bring something that stands the test of time. And those events are fated, okay? Those events are fated. It means that whenever this is perfected, something is about to happen and you don't know what, good or bad. Then you have to pay attention to what the ruler is, in this case Saturn. So that can tell you about the nature of the event. Okay, it's going to be something that's involved with something that Saturn signifies. Now, Saturn can be redoing your teeth, and Saturn can be financial collapse. Saturn can be climbing up the ladder, a Saturn can be a sudden downfall, okay, or poverty or homelessness or something of that sort. So it's in the range of events that can occur. Knowing where your lot of fortune is knowing where a certain surrender perhaps must be exercised, okay? For me, the ability to fit in structure or to be in structure or to climb up the ladder or to travel abroad, actually, okay, or certain things to do with paperwork, okay, how am I with taxation, how am I with paperwork, it's also Saturn. Certain events around this I have to surrender, all my savings, and then certain events I just have to surrender. It doesn't matter how much people will try to help or would go in the Saturnian way, or how much I am diligent or with dedication, okay, certain events, just structures collapse in my life every once in a while, or alternatively also good things, okay, can happen, which means connection, goals and dreams, something to do with climbing up the ladder. I've had encounters that were beyond what I thought that I could imagine I could get to speak with or I could get to encounter, and that is also a part of the deal. So let's try to go over the signs. So let's go over Aries. So Aries, lot of fortune in Aries would mean you have fated events around your very identity, your face, your innovation. You maybe have to innovate or maybe block to your innovation. You need to see how the lot of fortune itself is aspected, and you need to see how is Mars, where is Mars in your chart, how is it aspected, because those things are triggering for these events. This is before release, zodiac release. Zodiac release adds to that, adds details to that, but that's a bit more lengthy technique to explain, and you really need to have the good ascendant for the lot. So with Aries, which is by the way why I was not doing so much lot astrology, because I don't do rectification. With Aries, it's about a new project. You need to see what house it is, because that is where fated events going to occur, okay? If it's like your partnership, then something's going to happen with the partnership. It doesn't have to be divorce or marriage, but it can be something that is just fated event. I don't know, maybe because of your partner, you decide to travel somewhere. Let's say if Mars is in the 9th, okay? You will have fated traveling events with your partner or something of that sort. You also want to check what planets are with the lot of fortune. If you have conjunctions to the lot of fortune, it's going to play a major deal in your life. Like I gave example of my parent that had Mercury conjunct in a lot of fortune, and they had fated events to do with word, media, social media, kind of like what people say about them or how their word impact another, the book, and it's scorpionic, so there was even stuff to do with intelligence, like really weird shit that were the part of their speech where many things cannot control. For a person like this, and if you have Mercury or Venus associated with lot of fortune, it may mean that all the therapies that are to do with word therapy in the sense of word magic, okay, they might work for you only partially. So perhaps you will have very good events where suddenly you have find the right words, find the right this, find the right that, but you also have to take into account that the same thing can be with the other way around. So this is something, I have Venus ruling a lot of fortune, and there would be I have Venus ruling a lot of spirit, yes, but still my Venus is opposing a planet that makes it more challenging to utilize this power of the voice sometimes. The voices are more powerful, but if it's the written word, not always. And that can be something that you need to pay attention to, okay? Just like what I said with debt, okay? You can be a very diligent person, not to save. The way I got into debt was because I didn't want to take a loan. Very simply put, okay? When it was fated for me to get into debt, then I got into debt, and then I got degree, because Saturn in the 9th house. I got funding for degree because I wasn't able to fund for this myself. Even though I was working in the best of jobs and so on, and I was not really overspending relative to my income, at least. And so that was how financial crisis affected my life. Okay, so those things. Now sign Taurus. And sign Taurus is indeed Venus. A lot of fortune to do with the voice. That can be both losing your voice at times, but also regaining your voice. It can be also, okay, I will go back with Mars. It can also be real estate and financial stuff. With Venus, it's cars, possessions, assets, clothes, makeup, those many things that are associated with art, expression, relationships. So a lot of fortune with Venus simply means your relationships, especially sisterhood, relationships with women, regardless of your gender. There can be some fated events around this. And again, they can be both good or bad. It can be the friend that saves you from a toxic dynamic at work, and it can be the place where you go and you think this, women's shelter will help you, but they are, you have to escape from there, okay? This is fortune. This is just fated events that happen with the chart. And then, of course, you have to pay attention. Where is Venus? Are you day chart or night chart is going to also affect, okay, for these things. I'm night chart and Saturn is malefic out of sect, so the fated events can have more negative impact on my life, okay? Even if they yield something that can have a more negative impact on my life. And even eventually cause death, okay? It's like at the end of life, that can be one of the signification or perfection of such lot to do with malefic out of sect can be, in additional to other things, indicate death. I'm not going to go over this. Like every astrologer has the time where they either accidentally fall into that. That happened to me with the 22nd degree Mars, and and I had to do my own internal work around it. Okay, it just happened, but also good things just happened with that. So this is with Venus. If she is benefic within sect, this might add a fatedness to how much can you derive out of this benefic. You can liken it to Saturn opposing Venus, which I had. Venus rules my lot of fortune, but Saturn is opposing Venus and this is Venus applying to oppose Saturn. So there is restriction as to how much leverage I can use, and indeed I have dealt with the issue of access to choice a lot in my life, okay? The fact that Uranus was on my lot of fortune perhaps liberated some stuff for that while, and I did water expands upon cooling, but when it comes to the day-to-day, there is restriction to how much I can use my lot of spirit, which is how I respond to things. So yes, but there are other good things, okay? My voice is lethal. It's a 22 lot of spirit, which means I can use my singing voice to assassinate those who come to assassinate me. That's very simply put. Continuing on, Mercury. So Mercury, Gemini. Gemini has a certain duality. So a lot of fortune in Gemini can mean that something to do with two options, or two options you have to pick from, or having two of something, or numerous options. is fated in your life. That can be partners, that can be housing, it can be either good or bad, okay? Depending on where Mercury is, can be ultimatums that people try to post you, and you have to make a third option, but with a lot of fortune is not always possible. It can be around the children, around technology. Okay, so you might be the type of person who is always lucky with technology, or you might be the type of person where suddenly everything breaks down. Okay, and it can be not sound like a big deal, but if that's your fridge and your oven and your mixer and your cell phone together, okay, I remember when I was in lockdown, then both times I was in lockdown, I had problem with my cell phone, so I couldn't even order food. That just that's a side of sexual assaults in the astral and stuff like that I have still dealing with. But yes, and then my computer broke down. So that was a very mercurial action, okay? So think about lot of fortune can be something like that, or alternatively, something good happens and something, I don't know, you go to a job and they need you to try to test this application, and this application improves upon your lifestyle or improves upon your health, and that is your lot of fortune. Can also be to do with your health, nervous system, skin, again, can be a point. Speech, your ability to speak, can be both restricted, or you will have fated event regarding speech. You might suddenly become public speaker, or suddenly, okay, like my mom, have intelligence all up in your non-existent grill because they think of what you said something or whatnot during perfection of lot of fortune. See how Mercury is aspected, and as well see what is, if there is conjunctions, there are placements, additional planets to this lot. Okay, for me with lot of fortune, I have Neptune, which is not the same phase but the same sign, and surrendering things. Okay, surrendering big structures, for example, surrendering liquidating assets, and the Jupiter, which unfortunately sometimes means surrendering my sense of purpose and joy in life. Okay, and the yeah, but at other times it can be feeling joyous from things like, I don't know, growing a forest, and finding solace in that. So there's something really very fated about a lot of fortune, right? Now to Cancer, lot of fortune in Cancer. Okay, this is even before zodiac release. It will be accentuated with zodiac release, but this is the basis. Okay, lot of fortune in Cancer. Cancer has to do also with housing, caregiving, the breasts, cancer as well, like the disease cancer. Can be astrology, things to do with the moon. Okay, doing things with the moon. You might suddenly begin to track if you're menstruating, your menstruation, and see if it correlates with the moon, or just certain fated events that include of your nourishment. So you want to see where the moon is at, especially when you use zodiac release. From that can tell you a bit more of what can happen, because the moon is so fast moving, just like Mercury is fast moving. Moon is even more, because it's 28 days only takes to surround the zodiac. The eyes as well, your perspective, and thus your perspective, your memory is also associated with the moon, and therefore to some degree your speaking abilities. So fated events, okay, you might have a fated vacation where the food is different to what you're used to, and it may depletes cancer or cause cancer. Okay, you might have your fate is, let's say you're living in the States and all the food is GMO, even the whole food, and or let's say it's in the 8th house, or birthing. Okay, fated events of birthing, and the way you are treated. Okay, that can be something that is less leverage for choice. So you can remedy some conditions about this if you work with the moon and so on. But there are certain things that just, that they happen and they happen. Okay. Lot of fortune in Leo. So Leo is ruled by the sun, and Leo is about our heart, ability to open our heart and be vulnerable. With Leo, we need a lot of attention, admiration. It's the shining sun, okay? All eyes on us is both something that is scary and places a lot of expectations on us. You may, depending on how your sun is aspected and where your sun is at, you may be the natural, you just stand in the room and people gravitate towards you, okay? Or you constantly need this fire of attention from people, and that can both deplete you and them, but also nourish you and them. Think about the sun. When you have too much of the sun, you get burned. But when you have, but you cannot survive without the sun, okay? And it's sunlight. In fact, the curation for depression has to do with sunlight and exposure to sunlight or sun lamps, or traveling to where the sun is, and so on. Sun is also one of the signification of father, like moon is of mother. And of course, with the way of family upbringing nowadays, it is more lunar, and solar would be more correct than father and mother. And that means fated events to do with that, okay? To do, if with Cancer is your mother, then with lot of fortune in Leo can be your father, okay? Even fates to do with the sun. Think about a sunburn, suddenly having a sunburn and you remembering that, or that can also be the notation of a lot of fortune. Rise to fame or fall from fame can also be. Where is the sun really, really matters, and how is sun aspected, what is conjoining a lot of fortune. Nutrients, the heart rate, finding perhaps you have some event with the heart and you run into a different type of cure, okay? For example, after heart attack, I know they give antipsychotics, and this is for sure thing to kill you because it causes your muscles to not contract, your autonomous muscles to not contract. And this is what it does, okay? So it's like, okay, next time you're just going to die. You're not even going to be able to get to hospital because your muscles, your heart is not going to contract as it does with heart attack, which basically saves your life. Yes, don't blame the doctors. Their routine of getting trained is such that, I see these videos by those nurses and that we have in hospitals, and they make satire of their work, and always like with the dark circles under the eyes and not caring even anymore because they cannot stand it, and they don't have time to meditate and think about what they're doing. Let's put it that way. However many years they studied, okay? And they don't have time to think about the reliability of the systems that they are in. So those fated events can occur, but also good things, okay? Like a certain activity that spikes your heart, or a certain love that you have in your heart, or certain sense of vulnerability that perhaps at times is waiting on you, but at other times it's connecting you and allowing you to inspire the world with your shine, with your grace, okay? And a lot of fortune in Virgo, another Mercury sign. The difference between Gemini and Virgo, if I take it by the talismans for Mercury in Gemini do, what the talisman for Mercury in Virgo do, and again, I'm not expert on that. I just looked at whatever Sphere and Sundry wrote about this. And so Gemini is more playful, okay? And so a lot of fortune there can impede on or accentuate your playfulness. Virgo is more informed of trickery, okay? If Gemini has no idea what it's doing, and it can be the largest trick, but by chance, Virgo has more of idea of what it's doing, okay? Virgo is more informed of their own trickery. They're kind of like the adult Gemini, okay? And they take all the qualities of Mercury and perfect them. So this is the alchemist, this is the chemist, this is the person that sees the God in the little detail, okay? So this is when a Gemini person tells you, let's say, to take, yes, we have basil, and we have, basil is to have more boundaries, and then we have, what is the other oil? To diminish the boundaries, okay? So when Mercury does that to Gemini, you know the person is 9 times out of 10 has no idea that they even got it mixed. But when a Virgo does this, they know, you know that they are trying to on purpose mislead you, because they know the herbs, they know what they do, they know exactly what the thing is, and they are purposefully trying to make you reduce your boundaries, even to psychically attack you or to conjoin forces with people that do that. So this is, the Virgo is informed of what it's doing. It knows what it's doing. It's not doing this by chance. Again, 9 times out of 10, because there would always be the one time that they do it by chance, but because of all the times they didn't do it by chance, they're not believed, okay? And so you might be such person, okay? You might be such person. On the other hand, you might be such person that is actually helpful, or you are of service to people, and this is also fated, okay? You might save somebody, or you might find good healing or good herbs to something, or grow herbs, or even be astrological magician. You might have exact correct information, but with diagnosis, with lot of fortune, both for you and for another, there may be fatalistic mistakes because of that, okay? Because of the lot of fortune, okay? You're fated to misdiagnose this person. Okay, when I was working for insurance company, for me with Saturn, there was one deal that I made that I was sure that the couple where they lived and so, and all the profit, they can pay the fee. And that was weighing on them way more than I knew. So this was fated fatalistic mistake that I did, because I was with the interest of profit for the company. I didn't think that I'm compromising the interest of the client, because I thought that they can pay. And such thing later happened when I'm on the other side, and that's how I got my funding to study. So it was fatalistic mistake to do, in my case, with debt. With Mercury Virgo, with Virgo, it can be about diagnosis. Okay, you misdiagnose someone, some mistake about you can be of various degree of fatedness. And so unlike the Saturn or the lesson of we learn from our mistake, or this or that, sometimes it's so, and sometimes it's like that was genuinely fated mistake. Okay? So like you don't know when such thing can happen, because you can learn from this, and then there is a lot of fortune. Then next up is Libra. And Libra is another place where it's very interesting to have a lot of fortune. It's the place of balancing thing, also Venus ruled. So that can be your image, your beauty, artistic work. And this is the different type of sensual artistic work like Taurus. It is more coming from the mind, the sense of proportion, the sense of perspective, to the image, how something looks. Okay, it's different with the Venus Taurus, which is appealing to the senses. This Venus is working through the mind, okay? And so you may have fated events to do with that. This is also the sign of trade and balancing trade and balancing courtroom, okay? So lawsuits, just like with Mars, but in a different way, lawsuits, verdict, okay? Misjudgment can happen, a fated event to do with courts, and it can be lawsuit, it can be, if you are a judge, fated mistake, okay, putting the wrong person in jail, or a fated mistake around your sense of perspective, or alternatively, fated event where you correct such mistake. Both can be a lot of fortune. And again, can have to do with trade, okay? And so it's also about the gift of grace, okay? So say when I had somebody that had a giant deal for cosmetics. I was shopping for to basically curate face and acne and so on, and they were closing deal, and I was getting loan from a loaning company, and I did not understand how they approve of this loan. And later, when I got into trouble because of that, the person who sold me that was very much in deep shame, and I was like, no, no. And when I have some money, I come to you. You were good. Okay, people can make mistakes. So you want to keep that gift of grace also to Libra, because mistake here can be fatalistic, okay? And so and at other times it would just meet you around, if not finances, then around simple design, okay? But you must be cautious if you're doing something like a feng shui, okay, the use of design and healing, depending on where, let's say, Venus is in Virgo, Venus is in Pisces, okay? Then you have to be cautious, because this is where you could adjust the wrong remedy to a person. And to the various degrees that you misdiagnosed, and that can be quite fated. And it's not working like Saturn, that's like, oh, you've made that mistake, now you're going to pay for that. If your lot of fortune is not associated with Saturn, it's not working like Saturn. So it's not about this is your karma. It's not because you did something bad in life. It's because of the arrangement of nature, okay? And for some, it's because of certain curses. Saturn can also be curses. So if you're in a secret society or your ancestors were, that can be a certain thing to do with that. Then we have Scorpio, which is the other Mars sign. Lot of fortune in Scorpio is something deeply transformative. So there is a cathartic event to do with your lot of fortune. Whenever that pops up, and you can see it with zodiac releasing, there is a cathartic event to do with that. Change and transformation. Now, let's say Aries can simply be, you move in a house, there is no house for you, so you buy in a new land, or you move in off-grid and you build a cabin. Okay, and that's your lot of fortune. With Scorpio, it's something way more insidious than that sometimes. It's like, where do I feel like home? The energy of my home, or because it's also real estate. It can be around to do with sexuality, with the sexual energy, even astral, okay? So, stuff like sexual. You need to know there's such thing as sexual assault through astral realm, okay? And those events can be fated for you. Even mind control, because Mars rules the mind as well, and MK Ultra, okay? So stuff like that is really deep, dark, but there's also another source of wealth that can come with that. Again, depending where Mars is, which house it takes place. You have fated transformative events, okay? If I take, for example, I have 9th house Scorpio. Traveling for me is a pilgrimage, is a transformation of when I go, whether it was to academia, that unfortunately included MK Ultra, or to airport, or to travel, is events where my soul is transformed. And this is why I have to be ready for that, and there's Saturn involved there too. So it's a very, very, it's less of a vacation, although I crave a vacation, it's not. But later when I deal with the dark stuff, I have Pluto in the 9th. So with lot of fortune, it can be very similar, that even if it is in a, let's say, 9th house, or you say this is traveling or higher studies, they can be fated events to do with that. Okay, my ruler of lot of fortune is in 9th house, so I can relate to that a lot. And that's just, that's just fate. Okay, that's just, just you have to deal with that event. And knowing that can be at least validating to yourself, because this is where you have to be more stoic and less New Age. Some New Age works fantastic. Astrological magic is all basis for New Age. You have an offering, and you have ritual, and you have creative work that you do, and then you set intention and you build it in a certain structure. So it's just like very, it's kind of like very architectonic New Age stuff, okay? But it's New Age. It's the notion that you can affect your reality. In essence, it's just the old phase of New Age. I know there are some astrologers that will disdain me for saying that, but I think it's fair to say, okay, that the notion that we can affect our reality, that we have a say in our natal chart and we don't have to just comply. But when it comes to lot of fortune or things ruling lot of fortune or ruler of lot of fortune in a certain place, there is the place where even if it's not Saturn, there genuinely is limitation. It can be both constructive or not a constructive, okay? If I think for the fact that my lineage is Jungblut can be constructive for some people that saw me as, I guess, Mason, and I was not exposed to certain type of marginalized treatment, but for other times that would put me as target for human sacrifice, and that would be a different type of treatment, where I had no idea as to do with my name at all, okay? So you work against, to raise awareness to satanic ritual abuse, and they're like, there is a blood in your name. That's like Rothschild working to, and I'm like, okay, but we still want to change that, right? Okay, so this is how your name can be both a limiting factor, but also fated factor of kind of like the places where maybe I got a promotion or maybe I climbed up the ladder that wasn't even knowing that my name had to do with that. Like when I came to university and there was this psychologist that says, you're very, very intelligent, very, very smart. And I'm like, I'm a fairly intelligent person, but there really is no indication for you to know that. And there will only be indication of the blood test that I was given at hospital in retrospective. Okay, then they try to make it like it's the scores I made in exams, where it's like, it's nowhere near. I didn't take amphetamines back then, and even if I would, it's nowhere near that. It's not the type of intelligence that you see in these scores. And she very likely knew that, but she wanted to see what can she do with me. And that got me rehabilitation, that got me people that helped me with the welfare, that got me people that helped me with some documents, okay, that got me a lot of things that I didn't know that was what got me that, because nobody says it's your bloodline, and Israelis cannot do DNA test. But for the other things, this gets you to be targeted as political assassination, as human sacrifices, MK Ultra, as all these things that you don't connect with your blood. Okay, so that can also be very relevant for you if you have a lot of fortune with the Mars, particularly in Scorpio, or with Mars in Scorpio, or all of the above. Your bloodline, your name, can have fated repercussions, okay, of your life. I also have in the family Saban, and I was strolling at a hospital and seen not only they have production film company, but they have, and I have no contact to them, okay? It is not, they don't even know that I'm connected to the lineage. And they have for the particular departments in hospital where I to do with children. Should I continue? Okay? So you got it from the North African and you got it from the European or North European. And yeah, I don't know what Sudler did. I don't know what Zivov did. Zivov is, I think, magicians, okay? But this is how that can both open doors for you or risk your life, okay? And that's something that I find out only now in my Pluto square. Not in my Saturn, not in anything. So, lot of fortune in Scorpio. Brace yourself. Okay. But it can also be good things. Okay, it can also be good things. Again, I have the ruler in Scorpio, and I had fated events that unfortunately had to do with homelessness, but also led to a very deep sense of connection and a very deep sense of a connection, even to lineage, or sometimes it's experiential, it's even psychological, and that psychological is healing, is recovery, and to tend to my 22 degree. Okay, so that too. Sagittarius, so a lot of fortune in Sagittarius. This is another Jupiter sign, not another, the first of what we talk about, and this is the sign of worldview, beliefs, traveling as well, higher studies, even if it's not your ninth house, parents' sperm, okay, and growing trees, trees as Jupiter, the hips, the feet, the bum as well, Jupiter. You may have fated events to do with those, and then you see where your Jupiter is, how is it aspected, okay? Your sense of joy, meaning, purpose in life can also be Jupiter. If it is benefic of sect, then it is more real. If benefic out of sect, like me, was also ruled by Jupiter, then there can be problems with that. Jupiter, for the Vedic, it rules the spouse, but it also rules children. So fated events to do with those. And it doesn't necessarily mean like loss of a child, or no, it may be that your children can be a happy accident, okay, but a happy accident, okay. It can be. I had one of the stories that really shook me was, I heard, I was working like volunteering, and one of the women, she was married to a man, they had 2 children, and then she said father did not want any more children. She stole his sperm. It's literally rape, okay? She stole his sperm, became pregnant, and the child she had is the favorite of the father. Okay, I know this, I triggered so many men with this, and rightfully so. And this is one thing that I remember hearing, and I'm like, what the fuck? It was her husband, but he didn't want kids. He said he don't want more kids. And it's not like a pet, she stole his sperm, and my God. But the child, he ended up loving a lot. So go figure. Normally we would say if such event is so bad for the child, so detrimental for the child, for the sake of the child, don't do that. And that's the story I heard when I was volunteering. Insanely triggering, I guess, for many people, and very understandably so. But you can have such fated events, okay? Fated worldview changes. Your religion can be fated. Experiences with religious people, but also judges, can be fated in this sense. And they can be benefic, they can contribute to a sense of optimism, whether it's true or false, okay? So worldview events, and you have to see the house and where Jupiter is placed. Capricorn, okay, so Capricorn, I began this discussion because this was my lot of fortune. Again, depth, bones, hair, teeth, ancestry, climbing up the ladder, but also agriculture, something watches, something that stands the test of time, restrictions. Capricorn is within the frame, okay? But Aquarius is outside of the frame. I think Austin Kopuk said something like that, and he's very depicting of the experience, I would say. And this is your experience with the framework, okay? For example, I have Jupiter in the sign of feet, and I remember when I was young in school, they would have this place where you have to stand for an hour, like North Korea, and this call it misdar, I don't know, they have to stand for an hour, and I don't even know in honoring of what, and I always had to sit because I couldn't stand on my feet. I can walk and so on, not run so well, but I couldn't stand on my feet for long, and nobody believed me. So they thought I was behaving bad, okay? When it came to my feet. And even for my feet structure, it's the type that there's no care given for this type of medical condition, and it actually does matter. If reflexology and I have to fund it myself, or even pedicure that I have to fund it myself because I cannot do it. I cannot do it myself. Like, very simply put, I have restriction on doing it myself, whereas I don't seem to be disabled. It worked both in my favor because I didn't suffer for a lot of the things that people with disabilities suffer. If there were rumors about me behind my back, it was rumors because people are stupid and nothing to do with even my disability. It's just like stuff that people go through. It's also fated, and I would normally not know about this until I treat my teeth or something. And it just like, I just forged through for my way, and then like, fuck them. Just don't let it impact my life. But if it does, they can be assassinated, like not by me, but because I speak up. And what they try to do is something that, if it fails, then, now just move on with my life. I ain't got no time for that. But you see how, with the conjoining of restriction, and what is conjoining, okay, in this case, Jupiter, brings fated events to do with structure and how you fit into or not fit into the structure, okay? Well, on the other hand, when I was working for a high-tech company during financial crisis, I was fitting into the structure of giving me a big loan for my cosmetic treatment. So I'm hoping I would get even better income or something to get unstuck. And I was fitting into their structure of their credit score. So they were approving for this loan, okay? And it was not necessarily working in my favor. So the time that I wasn't fitting into the structure, which means that I am not compatible with ghetto, North Korea, forced labor, and I prefer death. Okay, it's very relevant for our times. But for the other time, when I was fitting into the structure, and that was not necessarily operating in my favor, or only in a roundabout way, because eventually I would get funding for studies through being in debt. It all began that I didn't want to take a loan, but there was not enough income to save money. That's a lot of fortune in Capricorn, okay? Like, that's life, man. Then we have Aquarius, and Aquarius is another funny bunch. This is where you're outside of the frame. You're the underdog, but you may have fated events. First of all, fated events that put you as the underdog, fated scientific discovery that doesn't sit with the pyramid, fated, you might grow up in a kibbutz or in a moshav, something to do with programming, can be mind control, can be astrology, okay, maybe you become astrologer, something fated to do with future oriented things. I met people in hospital that they were telling me I was kidnapped by aliens, and there was a doctor that was doing medical experiments on me. So I knew that people are targeted to do medical experiments, and they tried to kidnap me when I was a child. So I said that the only difference when it came to the aliens, I really didn't know where it's coming from. I said it's not impossible, but I just like, yeah, I mean, of course that can be, and it wasn't something that I considered. And so you see a person that has been hurt in such way is so alienated, very simply put, from society, and all they try to do is treat psychosis, but they need housing first, independent of ability to work and to be believed, because they're basically sort of a whistleblower on the violence that they've been through, even though it's difficult for the common person to understand it. So you may have such things, hopefully not like kidnapped by aliens and horrid stuff, but you may have encounters, let's say even positive encounters with aliens, or you may have a deeper connection with the cosmos, or deeper appreciation for futuristic technology. And there's always something dual with Aquarius as well. You know how they say, those who are lecturers about engineering, technology, innovation, they cannot put up like the very first the very first screening that they have for the students, they need someone to do that. So Aquarius is the same. And a lot of people have been saying that Uranus is not involved with Aquarius, therefore, no. It's the fusion of the times where it's history, it's playing with the times. So you bring historic times and futuristic times and you juxtapose things together. This is the most Uranian thing I could ever imagine. You can do that with Saturn. You just understand that Saturn does time outside of time, and now you get it. But you can also say Uranus. I mean, depending on if you like to do it with the analog way or would you like to do it in an automatic gear. It has pros and cons for both. Okay, Uranus transit is slower than Saturn and can predict stuff that Saturn alone cannot predict. If we dissociate that with the sign Aquarius, then there are some benefits to that. If we reassociate that, there's some other benefits to that. I think without understanding, and I said it numerous times, if you read my chart and you don't see Uranus in my 10th house as the ruler of my 12th, you understand nothing about who I am and what happens when you put me to the 12th. I end up in the 10th. And that becomes what? My teaching, because it's in Sign Jupiter. So try to make of me MK Ultra. Try to make of me sexpionage. I said the way you're doing sexpionage is all wrong, which means the way you're doing intelligence is all wrong, which means that even you intended not to ruin the world, you kind of ruin it right now. And that would be how I would deal with that, which is also the truth. So that is Aquarius. You have fated events on that level. Now, mind you, if you have a lot of fortune ruled by Saturn, both Capricorn and Aquarius are activated for you. Okay? And you have to see where is that Saturn sitting and what's next to it. I have my entire upper chart always active. So even when I go to my 4th house to beneath the horizon or to build a home, it ends up in my 11th, it ends up in my 10th. It ends up something that who's gonna know? They're gonna know. And that is how you look at it more holistically. Okay? Anything more Aquarius that I forgot? Because this is the sign where we tend to get to forget things. Okay? It's that's the thing about Aquarius. It's outside of the structure. So it's kind of like if there is a list, Aquarius is outside of it. So yeah. Or you can be Kim Jong-un. That's also fated. So, lot of fortune in Pisces. This is the other Jupiter sign. What's the difference between Pisces and Sagittarius? Sagittarius is expanding fire. Okay, Pisces is expanding either disease or expanding the ocean. Okay, there's a duality about Pisces because the expansion, when you think about a tsunami, okay, the water withdraws, and then the wave comes and washes over an entire city. That's the fated events you can expect to with Neptune, Jupiter, or both associated with your lot of fortune, said the girl that just told you she has that. Okay, it's just that there's a lot of fortune involving Saturn as well. So you get that all the company of benefics out of sex and malefic out of sex conjoin. And that's just life. Okay, you have to be stoic about this. But then what's in my 12? Okay, whatever isolation they put me through, I end up making a revolution in it. Okay, so that's very interesting as well, and it's all ruled by my Mars, which is my malefic insect, quite little one. Not initiatory little, but definitely not the one I would fuck around. I myself would not fuck around with my Mars. That's what I have to say. But then I'm ruled by Jupiter, which is benefic out of sex. So a lot of fortune in Pisces, fated event to do, even with fishing intelligence, organized crime, addictions, psychiatry, um, channeling dreams, messages from other realms, what is true, what is not true. You could, for example, believe that you are imagining about something and then find out that you weren't imagining, or the other way around, or just everything Pisces, okay? Just everything Pisces. Surrender, fated events where you just have to surrender to the tides. The water signs are being so accused that they are not taking responsibility over their lives. And I think there is nothing like a good Saturn in Pisces to show the world the sheer satire of their demand. Okay? It's like, especially with the refugees now, okay? You're just subjected. Yes, I do. Add some more. Thank you. The sheer satire of, okay, think about all the refugees. Okay, so many of these families were hardworking families, and how many of them said to their child, you have to stick it up. You know, I hear about Palestinians, brothers and sisters, mainly brothers because they killed the sisters. So, and it's no longer brother-in-law because they do the same in Israel now. But the thing is, you hear about them going back to Gaza and say, like, the Palestinians, they're the most resilient people. It's like, when will you stop bringing the drought with your infanticide, your killing of the women, you're blaming women on their murder, your rape of women, your genitalia mutilation? This brings the drought. It's good that you are resilient and mashallah and come back and have wealth and everything, but to stop killing yourselves. Okay? Saturn in Pisces is exactly for those people that always said, well, what will you do? You have to survive, you have to sustain, you have to this, you have to that. Then you are in a ship, it is sailing, and if you don't get out of, if you get out of the ship, maybe big fish will come for you. If you stay in the ship, maybe you will drown. And it's not much you have to do, but to surrender things. There's something really creepy about this situation, but there's also miraculous healing that can come with that surrendering, like a healing that you did not expect for at all to arrive from completely, miraculous places. So this is both depletion of compassion and extreme of compassion, and the juxtaposition of them both are associated with this lot of fortune. And this is both as a recipient and as a person who is a giver or perpetrator, if it is lack of compassion. So that is simply the water signs, okay? And Saturn here, or lot of fortune, can emphasize for the necessity and structures that can contain the ocean. Okay, we can try to build dams around the ocean. Lot of fortune is when such a dam can crash or can be built as well. Yes, I think that this is pretty much and again, you have to pay attention to Jupiter. There is, of course, religion, religious trauma, or redemption. Okay, liquid assets, water, leaks, intelligence, all these things that I talked about. And the events are fated. So with Pisces in general, there is a sense of surrender, but this just adds more fatedness to it. If you have your Neptune and Jupiter in Saturn sign, that adds more fatedness to your fortune, which is not which is not having fate, but necessarily, but some fated events. And people say karmic. Yes, but the thing is about the karma in Pisces is that you have very little control on the entire formation of the karma. So And then it is karma. So, you really do surrender to the ocean, and all the feelings that arise from that are completely just. Isolation can be, again, a point, and so on. This dissolution of something. Then you have to see where it's at. Okay, if I have Pisces first house, then when Neptune's going over this, had both miraculous healings and experiences and so on, but unfortunately, the other type, and is invisible as well, the other type too. Okay, so knowing your lot of fortune, what can it do for you? This is level of astrology where you embark into being a bit more stoic. The new age world, while you don't want to abandon completely, because you also have a lot of spirit, you also have points of intervention, you also have astrological magic, you don't want to give up on life. Okay, says the person who is advocating for that with dignity. But this is so that it can help you for to choose life. And so at the same time, what is happening there is that you just have to accept certain events, not to blame yourself, not to think, what did I do to create this? What did I do to create this is not a bad line of thought, but there are certain things where it's not the correct tool. Okay, I had an international relation teacher, Dr. Avi Segal, okay, and he said, for political theory, we want to analyze international situation, we need to understand that the theory is a tool in a box. And there are many tools in this box. And if you look at any political situation, you analyze it with the same old hammer, okay? If what you got is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And when it comes to your life, it's the same. If you try to manifest your way through it, there's a limitation to what it can do. And if you try to think, how did I create this problem? How am I solving this problem? Well, sometimes you grew up into society that needs to change for this problem to change. Okay, if you think about the people of Palestine, okay, you can delete Israel, you can delete the West, you can delete China, you can delete Islam, okay? But still, however you name it, still, as long as people still doing the things that deplete yin and cause drought, they will experience, if not occupation, they would experience famine. They would turn a living space into a freaking desert. And sometimes you do have natural events where everybody doing everything okay, but it's still not okay, functioning. But in this case, we know from years and years and years that this is so, that when you have infanticide, when you deplete yin, then men cannot fight correctly. There's nothing to hold the waters. There's nothing hold the waters, and nothing nourishes young, so people cannot take action. They can't defend themselves. That's what's happening. And then they say, oh, we're resilient, we go and build up the same tent and build up this. So, okay, but what about changing these cultural habits that restrain you, or this notion of respect that restrain you from being respected? And that is, yes, that is, and if you think about organized crime and where it plays out, you see, they tend to kill themselves. Okay? Because this honor. Now, honor is a lovely thing, but if this honor causes mass death, then perhaps not a lovely thing. And if you combine that with depleting yin, then you understand how WHO takes over the world, and it is very difficult for people to unite, even when the drug they provided was something that helped people to deal with trauma, like MDMA or amphetamines, which helps people sometimes to function, but depletes magnesium, says the girl with the magnesium from Netherlands here. So more things I have to say on the topic of Lot of Fortune. You don't want to get too scared about this. It's not about to scare you. It's about to relieve you from the burden of why did it happen to me? It just did, and you have the only part you play in it is just to be. And sometimes not even to be, if it's like dissociation or something. You were born into a chart, that thing takes place. It's not the entire story of astrology, but I feel it can be very humbling if we deal with certain dynamics in your life. If you deal for even when you think about getting help around certain topics, or if you're giving services to people, okay? Let's say you're giving service to someone who has a lot of fortune on Mercury, and you want to tell them, but please, if you say this word, if you say that word, it can work, but it will not completely remediate for the lot of fortune. Okay? Because there can be something that affects, and the more you understand the chart holistically, when you know the rulers, the houses, and the interactions, you see it's almost like a neural network where a lot of fortune can be in Saturn, but the problem with the structure you have has to do with the structure of your feet. And it's not about you adjusting your structure. You can readjust the structure of your feet, but it only takes you outside of the structure, not inside the structure, because you have also Uranus in the sign of, okay, that also rules feet. But the ruler also rules feet. So yes, for me, for example, if I'm in between houses or not unhoused, and good people want to say, oh, come, we find you job, we find you this, we find you that, I know I have to be very courteous with them and tell them, I have Uranus in 10th house. Everywhere you put me, I make revolution. Also shelter, also hospital, also jail. Yes, not that I have an intention to go to jail, but every place you put me, you want to offer me a good job because you want to help me, but I will make revolution. It's not necessarily going to be for their bad, but it's kind of like somebody comes into your house, someone, and they come into the attic and they have this uncontrollable urge to rearrange things, to make it look like home for them, okay? And then your entire psyche is set off. You don't even know it's hidden. You don't even know what is going on. Or you take someone on a job, and suddenly for the very things that are the most important to you, they change that. Okay, I had a boss that he was very important for him that I have only one name tag for each person. And I was like, what is this dumb fuckery? So people can forget their name tag. It's only a small thing. We can print these name tags. Okay, and I was pissed off from that. So I revolutionized that. He felt I betrayed his trust. Okay. And so this is where knowing these things, this is where astrology can assist you, because knowing these things means that the solutions, even if it's not around Saturn, this is something you cannot expect from person. Okay, if I have parent with lot of fortune with Mercury, they will say things sometimes that are the most triggering, and sometimes even I had to take 2 years off, okay, for my own mental state, and there's nothing that they can do something about it. This lot of fortune is around this, okay? So that is also another thing. They can be suddenly very healing with the words, but that is kind of the way it works for you. And it means that those things will be an issue, for better and for worse. Every once in a while, that's going to pop up, okay? And that's going to be an issue, and that is just fate. Now, you can try to remediate, you can try to work around, you can try to call on for the fixed stars that are associated with the sign, astrological magic, okay? And I'm not telling you despair. That being said, when things happen, essentially, it's a good thing to know that this is where the lot of fortune is at. Because just like to say to everybody, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it, is good, and we don't want to deprive people of their capacity and ability, to try and say to a person, let's say, that cannot stand on their feet for long, oh, if you want to, you can do it. Oh, if you want to, you can do it. Or if you want, mind over matter, communist China. Okay, you killed the person. You may have not killed them physically, but you killed their ability to participate in society. You killed their ability to feel included in your society, in your supposed inclusiveness, and you can do it, or scrutinizing and say, oh, they don't want to do it, they misbehave, for this, they have good grades, but they misbehave. Okay? All the way to university, it kept like that. They're very intelligent, but they misbehave. Okay? Aren't you intelligent enough to understand what this is about? Like, you're the guys who are teaching history of political revolutions, of philosophical revolutions, of scientific revolutions. Can't you see what this is about? This a study case is in front of you and you can't identify them from a mile ahead. So and so that can be a case where people don't know that this is lot of fortune. But sometimes people do know that, and they're trying to still control that. Okay? It happens for eclipsed children or pre-eclipsed children. I'm also pre-eclipsed child. But the thing is that it's a fair balance between allowing the possibility that you can do that and not placing the demand. And that lot of fortune is going to hit you at fundamental area of your life. Think about cancer, okay? A person wants to be child-free. Or a person that this is what they can do as mom. But if you take the child away, the child can go through satanic ritual abuse. So maybe you can help the mom, okay? But can also be a event that they get no help or they get no care. Or that other times they do get help, they do get care suddenly, and they don't know what. Okay, it's just like it's fated. Seventh house, they have no enemies, suddenly everyone is enemy. Or they have no relationship, suddenly they have relationship, and they think, what did I do good and what did I do bad? Nothing. Okay? It's just a lot of fortuning on you. Okay? Or like mine, okay, with debt, finances, structure, this, and all these things. Okay? What did I do good? But I try to brush my teeth, doesn't work. Then I put some oil and I say all the names of people who try to assassinate me. I was like, oh, now I can brush my teeth better. Lot of fortune in Saturn. Okay? Or I receive information from someone who's channeling about ancestry. Like, oh, that was not expected. Lot of fortune in Saturn. It can be around the housing. Then you say this person doesn't have home, but they work and they're homeless. They this and they that, okay? And you think, what to get them out of the situation? Well, a house. But then, so for some people, even you place them in houses, said not good energies. And they have to, and sometimes there's a lot of fortune involved. So all things fall apart, okay? Both the paradigms, both the agendas, all things fall apart. You say, for me, I have it in another way with Chiron in a Yod with Pluto and Neptune, okay? It means that with all the best of solutions, and there has to be, there's something that shakes up my balance from the core, that has to do with my very housing, ancestry, lineage, upbringing. Okay, like the time where I had to break away from my mom for 2 years because they didn't quite get that I was assaulted. So you can give it all the housing first and all the things I advocate and all the this, and I know that I advocate this for mostly people other than me will enjoy that. Maybe I will enjoy it some, and then something shake ups my entire life and is fated. Okay, it's just something, and when it happens to very housing, it's something. It's the deep core. Of course, it's and that's not something. There are things in society that need to change. That need to change. That need to change. It's also natal chart things that your natal chart is charting. Okay. Perhaps with that we can grow a little bit of compassion as society. Yes, for these things, and it's not to reduce choice, but sometimes for people to have access to choice, we need to allow place for accepting that perhaps that thing is not something that we can completely maneuver, at least at this time in history. Some of this, yes, is covenants and curses and that and so on that can be removed, that can be this, but some of this is just things that you watch them and you say, okay, I can see how that played out in the life of my loved one. I can see if I see 22 Lot of Fortune in Chart of Netherlands, I can see how that played out. And that humbles me, especially as a person who tended to political assassinations, by the way, on the lot of the life taker of me. So, yes. And a lot of that is very close to Aldebaran. It's on Aldebaran, 10 degrees Gemini. Sometimes the insight into these things at certain part of life can be sleep depriving, but at other parts of life that can be stoic. Okay. And sometimes it's courses and stuff, and sometimes it's not. So you can it's good to tend to things. If I take it back to the 22, it's good to tend, whether to cold cases, whether to political assassination, whether to things to prevent, to change, and some of these things are fated so that they will change things. It's also important to remember that fate does play a role, and there's only so much we can do. Okay. People want to treat it as big cosmic plan or as nature doing nature. That can improve, and a part of these things is also the fortunes, the good things that come with that. Whether it's healing, whether it's connection, whether it's abundance, whether it's me deciding to talk about a lot of fortune, and I've been very associated with the 22nd degree and so on, and the first time I come to talk about a lot of fortune in itself, it is on 22nd degree in my career house, okay, which is to do with teaching. So that is a certain type of, like, I wasn't expecting this, but the 22nd degree and 11th degree as well, but the 22nd degree, and today also 18th degree, is embedded into my story of life, so much so that even when I talk about this right now, I paid attention to a lot of fortune. I was doing the Beta Persei Uranus on 26th degree Taurus, then a lot of fortune was on that chart, conjunct in 26 Taurus, conjuncting that very talisman that I made. And I just woke up and I didn't know. I look at the chart and I'm like, yes, it's with Uranus talisman, you have to set intentions and let go. And you see that was beyond fated. I don't have even ability for to say anything about this other than how fated it is. And now when I come to talk about Lot of Fortune, you see Lot of Fortune at degree that is so associated with so many things that I do, because my Mars, the planet of action, is on retrograde 22 degree in my natal chart. My Navamsha is different, but our natal chart is still existing, okay? And Navamsha is very important, D9. And yes, that is really becoming story, okay? This is how the stories unfold for us. So thank you for listening.